Good day, boys and girls. We will continue with our story, Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. However, this time we will reflect on the story. Do you know what reflect or reflection means? Let me tell you. It means to think deeply or carefully about it. We're going to reflect on our story. By now, we all know that it is a realistic fiction because Alexander has real problems, a lot of them too, which can relate to most of us. Our main character is Alexander. We also see that there are many other characters. For example, Alexander's mom, his father, and two brothers, Anthony and Nick. His neighbor, Mrs. Gibson, and her kids, Becky, Elliot, and Audrey. His teacher is Mrs. Dickens, and his old best friend is Paul, and the dentist. Our main idea or theme of the story is that everyone has bad days, and they somehow can relate to each and every one of us. The story leaves you with the hopeful message that every bad day comes to an end eventually. We also learn that although Alexander is surrounded by people throughout the entire story, he is always physically left alone to deal with his anger, sadness, and frustration. Most of Alexander's characteristics tell us that he is a normal boy with normal feelings. For example, at times he can be rude. Remember when he told Paul to sit on the tack? He takes everything seriously. We also see that he can be selfish at times, especially when he is only concerned about himself and no one else. At the same time, we can also see he's very funny when he constantly says that he wants to move to Australia. So, some of his character traits are selfish, funny, he's messy, of course, when we look at his room, he's serious, he can be lazy, and rude. Other characters in the story are his older brothers, who don't really look after him although they are older, but rather they share a typical boys will be boys behavior. Anthony holds Alex down in the mud, whilst Nick calls him a crybaby. We also notice how they happily show off their new sneakers while he gets boring, plain white sneakers. Paul, Alexander's buddy, gets all the praise from Miss Dickens. He gets the best dessert and he gets to choose who's friends and who is not. At night, even his cat decides to sleep with Anthony. He was left all alone again. Now, let's reflect on Alexander's problems. Alexander had many problems, which is why the story was actually written. He is a normal boy with normal everyday feelings of sadness, frustration, anger, jealousy, and struggles. Let's look at his problems. He had gum in his hair, his foot was stuck in the elevator, he fell in the mud, he had no dessert for lunch, he had plain white shoes, and he had a cavity. Now, boys and girls, it's your turn. You will complete an activity for your teacher. These are questions of your own opinions. What did you learn? What do you learn about the characters, which are Alexander, his brothers, and Paul? Here you could describe Alexander and what his brothers did to him. You could describe Paul, who's supposed to be his best friend for many years. What did you read that was most important to you? Maybe you could write about how, despite all of his problems, he still tried to solve his problems. How did he do it all alone? Which is your favorite scene or part of the story? What questions do you still have about the story? These could be questions like, did his brothers treat him differently after this day? Do you think his mom ever forgot to put dessert for him? Do you think he decided to clean his room? Or most importantly, do you think Alexander ever went to bed with gum in his mouth again? Boys and girls, these are my ideas. You could use them, but remember to think carefully. Write full sentences and send it to your teacher on Class Dojo. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.